this one, it wasn't that it was jumbled. It's just I don't know where to begin. um, oh God, sorry, I don't know how to say it all. There was, I was going to say a slave girl. That's what it felt like. She was, she had to go, she had to sleep with men. I mean, it was like I mean, clearly we were talking about, well, not that this doesn't happen today, but it really was back in way ancient times. And it was something about, the covenant with God. In her ancestral line, somebody had gone against the covenant, and so they weren't protected, and they became slaves to, I don't know what the sentence was, like 400 years or something. And so that's what happens generation after generation after generation, but it becomes bred into them. So then, you know that one line, I know I just pick these random ones because that's how they show me, so I don't know where, but it says something like, once you free your slaves, but I always took that as like your demons, once you let them loose, if they don't want to go, nail them to the wall. And so again, I always take that as, okay, so fine, stay, but you now work for me. Let's have you do something that benefits me. Let's input the correct information. But this was showing like, oh God, it was showing this, like, just bear with me, like this slave girl. And then it was and she was that way because it was like her father from a million generations ago had broken the covenant. And then it was 400 lifetimes or 400, it might have been 400 years or 400 lifetimes. I don't know, but it was something like crazy like that it was bred into the line that then they were a slave to whatever. I guess it was like they had to be a sex slave. Like it was something like this, right? And so then I guess like the time was up, and it had been up for generations, but it was all they ever knew, right? And that is kind of what happens with all of us when there's this generational curse. Like it's all we ever know because each generation passes it down because they believe it. It's a strong held belief. And so they continue to repeat it, and they continue to repeat it throughout their bloodline, meaning they don't question it. They don't think to question it. It's not, and so it's become so familiar and commonplace. It's background noise. It's the way it is. And so then when somebody does question it, it is challenging, right? Because you're going into the unknown. And yet, oh God, sorry. They were showing it, and they were showing it was like this girl. And what was interesting, it was like the same girl all throughout, but it was like lifetime after lifetime. And she was free, but she didn't know she was free. Because again, she just was, it was so sad. Sorry. She didn't know because it was like the weirdest imagery. Like she was free, but like in her feeling body, she felt trapped, and it was lies, but it was just generation after generation of that embedded lie that kept lingering. And oh God, sorry, there was more to it. I'm just clearly getting emotional here. Sorry, I just want to clear that out so I can. It was right. Yeah. And so then it was like, for having a hard time verbalizing this here, it's like she kept slipping back into that behavior, even though she wasn't required to. It was just how she thought things were supposed to be. Because again, it was like, that's all her bloodline ever knew. And so, at one point it showed her like apologizing to God, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It was like she knew she was free. She knew she should love herself. She had no idea about this curse. And she knew to honor herself, but she kept slipping and doing stuff that wasn't honoring her, but it was like this knee-jerk reaction. And when she recognized it, she would apologize with God. And then it was like this understanding, like, it's not her fault, and it wasn't her parents' fault, and it wasn't her parents' fault. It's like you just have to pray about it, because it's the curse that was received for however many lifetimes, and it is what it is until it's not. It's like until it's the idea of like until the karmic debt has been eaten through, right? Until the contract is over, right? And so, and yet it had been over. And so then it's the idea of like, well, then if she wants to be that way, nail her to the wall. But it's like, it's not that she wants to be that way. It's that it's like there's been no explanation around it, no understanding around it, no, it's like clearing. It was like clearage. There was no clearing because there was no understanding. It was like no knowledge of what I'm speaking about. It was just all these feelings that were flooding through for her that she couldn't explain. And, oof. And so I'm doing the best I can to translate it out of that almost horror and sad situation into everyday reality of what we talk about all the time. It's like we do have, it's quote curses. It's this idea of, but that it does say that stuff in the Bible. That's why it's like, it's wild how it's like, oh no, that's legit. It is legit. It's accurate. And it's all of it. And it's symbolic, and it's about love, and it's all of it. And, but it is the idea of having to love oneself so much, right? Like, it's like, that's what, quote, breaks the curse, is truly unconditionally loving oneself, right? So like in all the Disney movies, it talks about this, right? But it's always with a partner, which I imagine would be a fuck lot easier, right? And that's what I think most people always talk about. Most people always do talk about the relationship, partners, all these things, because it's easier to work with somebody in healing that stuff when you have like somebody who can hold unconditional love and it's like almost want to heal you. It's such a, I was going to say it's kind of a fucked up thing, because you hear that how they show me, it's like it's an inside job and one has to do it for oneself. And yet, of course, somebody holding your hand and helping you, sure the fuck would be a lot easier. And yet you still have to do the work, right? And, oh, fuck. I'm trying to spit it all out, because it felt like it was like she understood that and she was getting that. And the more she was doing that, the more it was like chipping away at that curse or eating away at that karma, or however you want to say it. And yet I guess it's still that invisibleness, that fogginess around, that confusion of not having that clarity of, oh, this shit was an actual curse. God, you broke however many moons ago, broke the contract. And so, the root got ripped up, right? The stability was severed, the safety net of the connection. And so then it had to be healed, and it had to be replanted, and it had to have time to grow, and that takes time. And, we can all use this for symbolism for things too, loving oneself again, trusting oneself again, healing oneself. And again, it is like after heartbreak, after trauma, after tragedy, after awakening, right? Realizing one's own actions, behaviors, shadow, however you want to see it, verbalize it, understand it. But ultimately, it is being whole within oneself, right? And it's not about being codependent outside oneself, right? Not relying on anyone outside of you. It's having the direct connection with yourself and unconditional love. And ideally pairing with another who also speaks your language, like understands these things to the same degree, right? Which would then be the vibrational match, right? Could simply amplify one another, right? Versus this tearing one another down or wanting to step on one another, or all those dynamics are just scary trauma bonding, fuckery with the head. And the head must be clear to heal the heart. That's why it takes some of us longer when our head is not clear. Yeah, it's... I think that was all of it. No, they're showing again, but I think that's where I jumped on, didn't I? They're showing again where she was having like knee-jerk reactions, so there was still like a little bit of a trigger there or residual there, and then they flashed that sentence, or that it was something about nail them to the wall, which is also the idea of burn more fire, like burn it out of them. I mean, we could flip that on its head a million different ways to see it in all the different angles, where it's like, like I said before, like, oh, if it's then they're claiming they like that demon, so then that's the demon they're stuck with. But then it's like you got to train your demon, or release your demon. And we could say this so many different ways. But that's where I jumped on, because I then saw her apologizing to God, and I felt her like, oh God, it hit, like it was really like right to the heart, where it was like so sad, because she had all intention of keeping her contract with God and honoring herself and loving herself. And yet she found herself confused at times, doing things that she couldn't make sense of. And it wasn't even necessarily logically what she wanted. And yet it was this like requirement or need to, it's like the best way I can describe that feeling was, it was like an automatic response, right? This is unconscious, unaware. That's why I was like, there was no clarity there, right? Like that's how it felt. It was this weird, and but then she would recognize it, and it was like gut wrenching. And so she was apologizing, but that's when I came on, because it was like, well, what is it? Like, that's so sad. It's like, unconditional love has to, of course, see. So this is so interesting to me again, too, because this kind of language, this kind of verbiage is contradictory to what they also show me, that unconditional love is an energy, and where this, again, it uses terms that ends up like humanizing, right? And it's like that contract, it's like all these things, and yet it is the duality of what I have experienced. It is like I have, conversed with, and I do have, like, so it is this duality of, yeah, it's something there. It's like, well, yeah, for me, they had shown me a while ago, like having similar experiences, but then it was like once I had reached my contract with, this is interesting, but forgive these words, it was what appeared to be like with God. I had eaten through my karma. I was set free. And so then that would be to the higher unconditional, right? It's almost like your father set you free, and you can now go get the safety net of your mother, right? It's almost like, the way they're showing it and the way it feels and the way it's almost like God I was using would be like almost like the devil. And then you get set free from the devil and can go to unconditional love, who is God, who is a woman, who is soft, who is loving, who is kind, who is gentle, who is nurturing, right? Like it's that soft safety net you can fall into, is kind of how they're showing it right now. And so yet we don't always clarify all these terms or understand them the way they're showing it, or at least I don't, and the way they're showing it right now. And yet even in what they're showing me now, hugging my mother, it's then they're also showing me, and that's how it was a while ago, where they kind of like pushed me out into like the ethers, into Never Never Land. Like, okay, now go fly. You're fully free. Like you're fully set free. And so it's like, this is the idea of don't look back, you'll turn to salt. It's the idea of just keep moving forward. It's the idea of you have been released from all that. And yet we do tend to want to go back into the known because we know it. It's comfortable. We don't know what's out there. It's scary. And so it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, imagine. Right? It's like you have to use your imagination to unlock and open up those doors. And that too can actually be really challenging for people because they sometimes will continue to imagine the past, right? Or imagine the past to be different than it was and try to reimagine what was already. And it's like, no. Try to open up to a world of possibilities that has never existed. And that can be challenging for some of us. And so you know how we've talked about like creative outlets and stuff like that. So like for me, I'll flow in and out of that, right? Like there'll be times where my imagination just is blissful and it is unleashed. And there are times when it does feel like it's capped, it's tied down, and that's just a limit, right? Like there is something that is gnawing at me, right? It's something that I need to see or address or deal with, some limit, some confusion, some delusion that is keeping me blind, right? And so then you aren't as creative, right? Then your creativity is blocked. And until you address whatever that tie is, that lie is, that fear is, that confusion is, it's like then you stay locked, you stay chained up. And we've discussed this in many of ways where there are times where you might even know the answer, but it might involve another party who is not willing to participate. They want to keep you locked, tied, and confused. And so that is the idea of like, that's when one has to pray or one has to whatever to like heal themselves, do their own work, because you can't always rely on that exterior, but you can always rely on the interior, right? It's like the idea of build a stronger relationship with yourself to break all those ties and lies, confusion, delusion. Give yourself that peace of mind. Offer that to yourself. So you can see clear again. I know we went over a lot here, but I'm just going to leave it there for now. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening. You can now purchase an audio journey with me using the link below.